Look, Dad. Look at that bright, shiny star. Do you think it's Mom watching us from heaven?
Don't be ridiculous, Amara. It's just the North Star. Stars are just giant balls of hot air and matter. Come, it's time for bed.
I felt so disappointed as I walked away from the telescope. I really wanted to believe it was Mom. Dad always got so weird whenever I brought her up. It seemed like he never wanted to talk about her. My name is Amara, and people say I'm a child prodigy. My dad is a scientist, and ever since I was a kid, I've heard him say that science is the most important thing in life. And I decided that I would become a physicist like him one day. But that day came sooner than anyone had expected. You see, my teachers in school soon discovered that I was a genius, and I was bumped up quite a few grades. I was done with high school by the time I was 10 years old. By 13, I'd graduated from college, and by 16, I'd gotten my PhD in astrophysics. Soon enough, I was hired as a professor at a university where all the students were older than me. Once I entered the lecture room, and one of my students looked at me pitifully.
Are you lost, kiddo? You want some help?
Yeah, I want you to sit there and be quiet.
What?
Just take a seat. I'm your professor.
Hey, don't lie, you idiot. That's not funny. It's disrespectful.
Shut up and get lost before I make you regret the moment you saw me. The guy's face turned red and he started yelling at me.
Don't you have some respect for adults, kid? Your mama didn't raise you well, did she?
When he mentioned my mom, I got mad. Don't mention her. Don't talk like this about her, you good-for-nothing moron. And I left the room. Minutes later, I returned with the head of the department, and he introduced me to the students. Their jaws dropped open and the room was awkwardly silent. That guy looked shocked. He left and I never saw him again. I started teaching, and students really liked me and my teaching style. Even though I was really proud of everything I'd achieved so young, I sometimes envied other kids who seemed to be having fun with their family and friends. Dad was always too busy, and so was I. And I had no friends my age, except Tanya, my next-door neighbor. She was into fashion, and I never understood what she was talking about. Once, she came and said, "Amara, I feel down. I just broke up with my boyfriend." "But you broke up with him last week, no?" "Oh no, not Mike. Today I broke up with James. And tomorrow I'll dump Marcos. But after he brings me dinner. You know, food is every girl's weakness." Oh God, this girl. But speaking about weakness, one day as I was getting ready to get to work, I saw the most awful tweet on my phone that changed my life forever. Joan Feynman had died. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. I knew she was 93 years old, but she was a pioneer in astrophysics and my personal heroine. I was so devastated that I could barely focus on my lessons that day. That evening, Dad asked me what was wrong. I told him I was really shaken by my idol's death.
Oh, that's so pathetic, Amara. To feel sad about someone's death? That's just so silly. I thought you were more mature than this.
Dad, she's my role model.
I can't believe you're like this. You're too emotional to be a real scientist. So disappointing.
I bit my tongue and didn't tell him that NASA had offered me a position on the International Space Station. I just went into my room. I decided to watch a documentary instead. It was about how single women who don't have boyfriends live shorter lives than those who get married. It seemed silly at first, but then they presented hard scientific evidence, and I was convinced. I did not want to die young. And then I got a brilliant idea. I should have a boyfriend. It's not like I was dying to have a boyfriend. I just really needed to test out this theory. When I walked downstairs for breakfast, I made an announcement. "Dad, what do you think about me having a boyfriend?" My dad almost dropped his fork into the food he was eating.
A boyfriend? Why?
"I'm just a human with emotions, Dad. I deserve to love and be loved."
What does that even mean? You're too young to have a boyfriend.
Oh, weren't I young when you made me work as a professor?
That's something else. It's because you're the smartest kid I've ever seen.
Oh, so I'm smart to teach and not smart enough to have a boyfriend.
Romance is for dumb people only.
Oh, Dad, I made my decision. I'm not asking for your permission. I'm just letting you know.
I can't believe you're doing this. You're like animals now, like a monkey.
Oh, I don't mind being a monkey. I just want to live longer.
What are you talking about?
Nothing, Dad. You won't get it. Dad didn't look pleased at all, but he didn't say anything else. We ate in silence and I left for work. When I reached my office, I canceled my morning class and got to work on my project. How could I ensure that I would meet someone suitable? Well, success was directly proportional to the number of people I met. I had to meet Lots of guys. I reached home and called my friend Tanya. I want to have a boyfriend.
What? Is this a prank?
Oh, come on, Tanya. I'm just a girl like you.
You are?
Tanya, I'm serious. I need your help.
Okay. You want one?
One what?
One boyfriend or more?
Oh, no. I would just like to start with one, please.
But what did your dad say about this?
Oh, him? He's evil. Trust me. He doesn't want me to have a life, but I'm done listening to him. Tanya then downloaded a bunch of dating apps on my phone. I worked on my profile and put up my best picture that showed me winning the government grant last year for special research. I didn't have a single request in days. What's wrong, Tanya? Don't guys like smart girls?
Oh, poor Amara.
Just come with me. I had no idea about the torture waiting for me there. I hated shopping, and she dragged me through stores, picking out short pink skirts and Hello Kitty tops. But Tanya, no one would take me seriously at work if I wore this stuff. And no one is going to send you a request on the app if you have a picture of yourself in a lab coat. Just try it on. It's a really cute look. She took me to the salon next for some extremely painful procedures. I was being attacked by thread and wax and hair tongs, after which those women proceeded to slap makeup onto my face. Next, Tanya took some pictures for me and uploaded them onto the app. When I looked at the dating profile, I couldn't recognize the face I saw. I shook my head and went along with it. Apparently, Tanya was onto something because soon enough my phone was buzzing with notifications. It had worked. The next day, I went dressed exactly as Tanya had taught me. As I was walking out the door, Dad looked like he was about to have a fit. The first boy said I didn't look anything like the picture on my profile, and I needed to learn how to apply makeup better. The second one didn't even let me get a word in. He just kept talking about his bodybuilding and kept asking me to touch his biceps. Boy number 3 was just really angry about everything and shouted at the waiter for not giving him ketchup with his fries. The fourth one just sat silently for 30 minutes before he said he had a session with his therapist and he just left me to pay the bill. In 3 days, I had 14 dates, and it was clear something wasn't working. I needed to meet people who I had something in common with. I decided to make a list of all my favorite science and cultural clubs and museums, and from the next day, I attended every meeting and party. I went to classical concerts and painting exhibitions and tried to talk to every boy I could find. I finally met a guy who seemed really interesting. Sam. We spent 3 evenings discussing books, physics, and our favorite insects. Then on the 4th date, I noticed his phone ringing when he was in the bathroom. We were in a quiet cafe and the loud trilling made everyone glare in my direction. I quickly picked up the phone and said, "Sam's phone, who's calling?" The answer on the other end made me almost drop the phone.
His girlfriend. Who are you?
I was shocked and threw it to Sam, who had just come back to the table. When he saw who it was, he looked at me speechlessly, and I just walked out. I was devastated. I went back home and clutched onto my NASA acceptance letter and sobbed. I sobbed because all boys seemed like jerks. But after a day of staying in bed, I decided I needed to continue with my experiment. I had to find someone single. I booked an appointment with the internet's finest matchmaker and set off to meet them. When I told them all my details, they said my IQ was too high and they didn't have anyone who could be matched with me. Fed up and angry, I stomped home. My dad, who had been watching all these changes silently, stopped me that day.
Amara, what has gotten into you? Why are you behaving like such a stupid person?
Something inside me snapped, and I yelled at him. You never talk about Mom and her death. You never once asked me how I felt when she left us. You mocked me when I told you I felt sad over my idol's death. I'm really scared, and I'm just doing all of this because I don't want to end up alone. And with that, I just stormed off to my room in tears, and Dad didn't follow. When I came down the next day, my father had made my favorite pancakes. That surprised me. He gave me some coffee and sat me down. I was shocked to see him clutching a picture of Mom.
Your mom was the love of my life. Her death devastated me, and no science or logic can explain that pain, so I don't talk about it. I don't know how to.
I stared at my father. I couldn't believe he was talking about his feelings.
I'm sorry that I was selfish and never let you express or process your emotions. You were only a kid, and it's your loss too. And the only reason to be with someone is because they're your soulmate, not some stupid study.
A tear slid down my cheek. I told Dad about the NASA mission, and he hugged me in delight. I emailed NASA back the next day and accepted their offer. I flew to the training session and finished my lessons. In 3 months, I was on the International Space Station. I couldn't believe I was in space. I looked at the stars around me and felt closer to my mother than ever before. It was beautiful. I stared at Earth in the distance and felt a surge of happiness. I felt free. 2 months later, I was back on Earth, and I got into the plane to go back home. The seat next to me was empty, and then I heard a voice.
Hey, Amara.
I turned and saw a man with spectacles and a kind smile. Peter? It was my old school friend Peter, who had left school early. We laughed and talked about old memories. At the end of the flight, he asked me for my number.
Amara, would it be okay if I asked you out sometime? I always had a crush on you.
I smiled and said yes.